Hey, what's up, YouTube? Well, long time no video. I know it's been a record high of what, 12 days? Wow. Or I know it's not a record high, but I haven't gone that long in quite a while without making a video, and I really didn't like that. But a number of things have been happening as to why I was unable to make a video in those 12 days. And one of them happens to be that my sister graduated college. I was able to find a way to go. It happened a little differently than I was expecting, but my dad basically would not allow me to stay all by myself, like my mom wanted me to, and just skip out on her graduation just to prove a point to her, to say that she has to include her mom, or she doesn't get me. But the reality is, she doesn't have a lot more people than my father and me, that would go to her graduation, and we found that out. We thought she'd have a lot of other people, but it ended up not being as big of a celebration as we thought it would be. But anyway, so she's a college graduate now. And basically, the other thing that's been happening is that my dad has gotten a lot of days off. And while that's great for doing fun stuff together and going shopping, it is not good for me making videos for obvious reasons. So anyway, the weather has just been horrible, like we're basically about to float away. And they just don't know how lucky they are in places like Glendale, California, where it's nice and clear and sunny all day, and they actually get to see the moon, which is really making me so mad because we're about to have a full moon and I won't get to take pictures of it because it's done nothing but rain and cloud up all day and all night. So anyway, enough about the weather. I never thought I'd see the day when I would have to admit that the thing I hate the most about living in Texas, which is otherwise the best state within the best country in the world, the one thing I hate the most about living in Texas is the weather. And that would come as a big surprise to a lot of people that have this image in their mind of a dry desert, and they think it doesn't rain in Texas, and they certainly don't think there have ever been hurricanes and, natural disasters like that. But the reality is that Texas, or at least as of 2005, it was second only to Florida as far as hurricane landfalls in recorded history. Basically, it actually was ahead of Louisiana at the time. So I really don't know when we agreed to move to Louisiana, but that's exactly what it feels like with the amount of rain that we get. Okay, it feels like we're basically in Louisiana. In fact, there isn't much difference in the weather, and sometimes it is surprisingly sunnier in Louisiana than it is in Texas, depending on where you are in Louisiana. So anyway, crazy weather, horrible weather, but I guess it's better than the freeze, although I enjoyed having snow. So anyway, what I want to talk about today, which I know this video will probably end up being way too long since I've spent so much time talking about those other things, I'd like to title this video, why women don't fetishize diapers, or I guess I could put it, why women don't like diapers, to make it sound nicer. Okay, and I've been thinking about that the whole time I was gone, on this trip. I should have been enjoying myself, but unfortunately all I could really think about was this concept, that I'm basically obsessed with, and it's in conjunction with this Rugrats obsession because, let's face it, that's the only reason I'm obsessed with Rugrats and not all those other shows on Nickelodeon this many years later. Okay, so Rugrats and diaper fetishism go hand in hand in my mind. And what I'd like to talk about is why it is almost exclusively a male fetish, and why almost no woman is an ABDL And if she is, she's probably just doing it to please someone who actually is, like her boyfriend that wants to see her in a diaper. Okay? And the reason, it just makes me so mad because I've actually seen this talked about, in many places. Like these diaper forums, ABDL forums. And it just makes me so angry, some of the things they come up with, some of the stupid reasons they come up with as to why women aren't, getting aroused by the thought of wearing and using diapers. And it just makes me so mad because a lot of their ideas are pure misogyny and stereotypes about men and women. And they come up with things like, because men are expected to be strong and manly and a provider, that they think of diapers as an escape from that. They want to be a baby because society doesn't allow them to be weak and sensitive and cry. And that's about the stupidest thing I've ever heard, okay? That is as stupid as it gets as far as a reason, to fetishize diapers. Okay, diapers have nothing to do with being weak or showing emotions. Okay, and the reality is that men don't cry as much for the simple reason that testosterone makes it easier to resist crying. Okay, believe me, if women could resist crying, we would not cry nearly as much as we do, and I don't cry that much anyway. It's not because women want to cry more than men. It's because we don't have testosterone in our veins, making it easy to resist crying. Believe me, women do not want to cry any more than men do. Nobody wants to cry. But it just made me so angry, some of the things they would come up with. When the reality of the situation is the fact that women have this unique ability to create life. You see, that's what every man is in denial of. Women are the caregivers, not because we choose to be or would like to be, but because our bodies just have this, and in my case, thankfully, I don't anymore, praise God. But women are born with the ability to create life when we come of age, okay? And because of that, we don't fetishize diapers or, fantasize about wearing them, because for women, if you have a fascination with diapers, there is a much more normal, healthy, natural way to fulfill that. We don't need to appropriate infancy or babyhood and, wear diapers. We could create a new person that needs diapers and is allowed to do so by society. You know what I'm saying? If we have a fascination with diapers, most of us can just have a baby. You see, women have an outlet to fulfill that fantasy if it exists at all. Okay, if we have a fascination with diapers. And when you're a little girl and you're fascinated with diapers, you can buy a baby doll from the girls section and a pack of diapers for dolls. They have all kinds. Okay, so it's not because men are expected to be strong or anything like that. It's because they are not the ones that get to create a baby. They don't, they can be a father, but that's not quite the same. It's like their only real connection to the mother-child relationship or bond is that of a baby. That is the only perspective from which they can truly experience that relationship, the mother-child relationship. They can only be the baby. Little girls, on the other hand, get to experience it from both sides, which is why, they don't cling on to being a baby, or why moms don't try to keep them a baby. Part of it is their maturity. They just mature faster. But at the same time, mothers realize that one day their little girl will likely be a mother herself. Okay, so there isn't quite that drive to infantilize a little girl, because before you know it, she'll be old enough to have a baby of her own. Okay, but with a little boy, his only chance to experience the mother child bond is when he's a baby. Sure, he can be a father, but that isn't quite the same. Um, and it just makes me so angry. Some of the things these people would come up with, as theories as to why that is. But no, it's because that's one reason. And, because men just have more, sexually deviant behaviors because they're allowed to, explore their sexuality. We're always shamed about everything regarding our bodies and our sexuality from an early age. We're told to be the object, not the agent when it comes to sex. So whatever men want is whatever we're expected to be, not what we want. So, we don't have this need to appropriate infancy like men do if they want to experience, that aspect of life. We could create a baby. And of course, in my case, I never wanted to. We could create a baby if we wanted to change diapers and smell literal SH all day. But men, on the other hand, if they can't become a father, which is the case for a lot of these people, they're gay, their only way to experience that is to appropriate the role of a baby and put on a diaper, which I find totally disgusting. The other reason is the fact, another thing about it is the fact that little girls do mature so much quicker than boys, and especially when it comes to potty training, and because of that, they may not associate diapers with infancy and toddlerhood nearly to the extent that boys do. I mean, think about it. Let's say that a girl is potty trained by 18 months, or, even younger with some of these EC moms. So you wouldn't really have any childhood memories of yourself in a diaper. Let's say you're just dry all day and all night before the age of 2. Well, you wouldn't have a lot of memories about diapers. Okay, so when you look back on your childhood and, even like your toddlerhood, your early years, you still would remember yourself as a little girl wearing panties, which is pretty much all I ever remember about my childhood. I don't ever remember being a diaper girl. But you still wouldn't, think much about, they wouldn't remind you as much of childhood. They don't have that nostalgia because you were so young when you potty trained. Okay? And so, boys, on the other hand, let's say they were in them until 3, 4, 5 years old, even if they were bedwetting or something, they might look back on their kindergarten years or preschool years and vividly remember wearing a diaper. Okay, so it has a strong connection to childhood for them, much stronger than with us. And the other thing is that, for the female gender, not only is there this dissonance, this thing about how girls don't poop, so, it would just be so weird, to wear a diaper because, the irony of being, covered in the substance that your body isn't even supposed to produce whatsoever. That conflicts with femininity, but also, there's another very disturbing thing, is the fact that as you get older, because women go through childbirth, while incontinence issues are more common in boys in childhood because they mature later, well, when you get to the senior years or the golden years of being an old person, it's actually more common in women because of the fact that childhood takes such a toll on our bodies. Plus men die younger than women on average, so they're more likely to not even live old enough to need diapers, as an old person, like adult diapers or Depends or whatever. So when you get to be an old person, there's more women in diapers, partly because there's just more women, period, more women alive. but also because, childbirth takes a toll on the female body, whereas it doesn't affect the male for obvious reasons. Um, and, one big red fact that guys just would love to, just totally forget exists, we get a monthly cycle. By the age of 12 or 13, girls are already having to wear a pad, which is basically a piece of a diaper that you stick in your panties. And thankfully, I don't have to deal with that anymore. Um, so, between menstrual periods and old age incontinence, okay, women have a very negative association with diapers and such products. We have a very negative view about that because it conflicts with femininity, beauty, perfection, cleanliness, all the things that are near and dear to our hearts, and because we associate such things more with menstruation and old age than with childhood. Since we were potty trained so young in many cases, we associate diapers and similar products with menstruation and urinary incontinence in old people. Okay, not with childhood and being a badass little boy that didn't want to use the toilet, but with being an ugly old hag that had a bunch of kids and is basically, no longer considered beautiful. No longer has any sexual market value, so to speak. Not a little boy that has his whole life ahead of him. Okay, so, we have a much different association with diapers, due to a difference in, the ages that we would wear them, more in old age, less in childhood. Okay, so putting on a diaper would not make me feel like a baby, which of course I would never do it. It would make me feel like an ugly old lady or like someone with a disability or an abnormally heavy period like I had before my hysterectomy. So anyway, I know I've gone on long enough about that. And also, women just care more about the environment than men. So we don't take pleasure in the thought of filling a landfill with even more things, I mean, it's bad enough that as a baby your mom probably put you in disposables and didn't care. So we don't want to add to that any more than necessary. And if I could have stopped having a period, within months after starting my first, I would have done it. I would have had a hysterectomy the summer I turned 12 instead of, at age, almost 33. I'm a month shy of 38 right now, so I'm still 37. So it's 5 years post-op. But anyway, so diapers have a very negative association for women, and probably for most men. It's really a fringe thing. It isn't the average guy that fetishizes diapers or, wants to be an ABDL and all that. Most men don't. But among the people that are into that, it's mostly men, and I've spent way too long talking about why.